Hello, good morning. Thank you, Ostis, for welcoming me on stage. It's lovely to see you all here in the room, and hello to those that are joining online. I feel like I should start by sort of plugging my session as well, since Ole was plugging his. You can join me and other non-lawyers in a session later today on influencing the green and digital agenda, just FYI. But first of all, I am Elspeth Ólafsdóttir. I am an officer in the Internal Market Division at the EFTA Secretariat, and I cover single market policy more generally, and now more increasingly industrial policy as well. And as Ásdís was saying, you have learned now a lot about the practical steps for what the EEA agreement is, how EU law becomes EEA law, but I will be sharing rather some more perspectives relating to monitoring policy developments. And me and my colleagues at the Secretariat, we closely monitor actually what is going on the EU side. And this year is quite a special one for us in several different ways. First of all, and most importantly, of course, the EEA agreement is turning 30. Secondly, we have EU elections coming up, as well as a new college of commissioners coming in this autumn. But finally, this is the year, sort of, where the future of the internal market will be at the center of debates here in Brussels and across Europe. We are at a turning point when it comes to the internal market, and I will today share some perspectives with you on the past, present, and future, and how the EEA EFTA states are a part of this reality. We sometimes take this cooperation for granted, but when the world shakes, we all are sort of reminded of its value. Please bear with me when I share with you a tiny history lesson back 40 years. In 1985, the Commission presented a white paper on the internal market, which argued for pulling in the individual markets into one single market without any restrictions or hindrances. And this, of course, fueled the debate in the EFTA states on the effects that such an internal market would have on EFTA citizens and businesses, which then caused intensified discussions between the two parties, which concluded in 1992 when the EEA agreement was signed, and then entered into force on the 1st of January 1994. Is there anyone born on that day, by the way? We are looking for a person. So the aim of the EEA agreement actually was from the outset to allow for the full participation of the EEA EFTA states in the internal market. And it's important when the world shakes that we remember the sort of original aim of the agreement. Since then, we have witnessed several different milestones for the EEA cooperation, which the younger generation in this room has sort of grown up actually with. Citizens can move, study, and work freely within the EEA. They've been able to use a European health insurance card now for more than 20 years, I think. Everyday life of businesses has been simplified. The free movement of goods is secured through harmonized product requirements. EEA citizens also have unified consumer rights and passenger rights, and they have been able to roam like home since 2017. EEA citizens also have rights over their personal data. And of course, many have benefited from EU programs such as Horizon Europe and Erasmus+. These milestones actually benefit both parties to the agreement, and it is important that we bear that in mind on this anniversary year. And it's also crucial that we remind ourselves that the EEA agreement is the most comprehensive agreement that the EU has entered into with any non-EU country. And Iceland, Norway, and Liechtenstein are active contributors to the further development of the internal market through many different means, including on decision shaping, which my colleague Trond will explain in his presentation. The milestones I mentioned before were actually all reached more than 5 years ago. So I want to go to 2019 now and reflect a bit on what happened then and the years following. In 2019, Ursula von der Leyen took over as the president of the European Commission. There was optimism in the air, and the European Green Deal and the Europe Fit for the Digital Age were presented. If I reflect on the EEA EFTA dimension here, our member states align with the EU's climate and digital objectives and share the same high ambitions. They are actually part of key policy frameworks to accelerate the green transformation, such as the EU emissions trading system, and are in the process of assessing and starting to incorporate new legislation relating to the twin transitions, such as the green and the digital. But I did say before that we have witnessed a shift in single market policy, and the shift has been driven by crises such as COVID-19, the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and global tensions in general linked to economic security and de-risking. And the current geopolitical landscape has showed us how fragile coordination within the single market actually can be. We saw during the COVID crisis within the EEA that we had closing borders and a fight for protective equipment. And it has sort of further brought attention to how dependent Europe is on items such as vaccines, natural gas, semiconductors or chips, and critical raw materials like lithium to produce batteries, etc., as well as net zero manufacturing technologies like solar panels or heat pumps, which usually come from outside Europe. And as a result, the EU has been reacting to these crises quite intensively with the aim of further developing the single market to enhance Europe's competitiveness, reduce dependencies, and increase resilience. Recent initiatives of the EU side include, for instance, the CHIPS Act and the proposals for an Internal Market Emergency and Resilience Act, Critical Raw Materials Act, Net Zero Industry Act, to name a few. They all aim towards greater economic security and robustness of the internal market, while also ensuring the smooth delivery of the green and digital transitions. And as Marit was mentioning before, they include several different dimensions and mainly aim to strengthen the internal market, but they also do include some elements which relate to trade and third country relations. Throughout these crises, the EEA EFTA states have taken part in the EU's reaction and therefore remain as committed partners. There was, for instance, a remarkable coordination when it came to COVID vaccinations and vaccine passports during the pandemic, which the EEA EFTA states took full part in. And I remind you, for instance, of this beloved map that we all looked at every day for more than a year. Very good times indeed. On actions relating to Ukraine, the EEA EFTA states have aligned with the EU in its response. Norway also aims to participate in joint EU efforts to strengthen European ammunition production capacity and procurement through the EU programs ASAP and DERPA. And as regards industrial initiatives, the EEA EFTA states are key partners to ensuring a competitive Europe fit for the future, as they have noted in some recent EEA joint comments, which Trond will also explain what actually are. And some of the EEA EFTA states are also leading in developing net zero technologies, for instance, on carbon capture and storage, and in supplying raw materials that are needed for the future. So what's next? I mentioned in the beginning of the presentation that a lot of debate is ongoing in Brussels at the moment on the internal market. This is a fact, and what the current geopolitical situation also requires of our policy makers. The EFTA Secretariat is closely following these debates to assist our experts in their assessments and developments. The Commission has been issuing several reports and strategies on the way forward, such as a long-term competitiveness strategy, the Single Market at 30 communication, and an economic security strategy. The European Council has also tasked Enrico Letta, the former Prime Minister of Italy, to draft a report on the future of the single market, which is due now in April. And another has been requested by the Commission from Mario Draghi, another former Prime Minister of Italy, on the future of Europe's competitiveness. And both will be highly relevant for the EEA EFTA states. Ursula von der Leyen said in her State of the Union speech that the EU was now a geopolitical union, where the impact of global politics now seem to resonate in almost every policy area. And the Granada Declaration of EU leaders this fall further underlined the EU's commitment to increasing its capabilities to address global challenges and material dependencies with third countries. The EU member states are now discussing and setting their strategic agenda for the next 5 years, and we closely monitor these together with our member states. On the EEA agreement, it is a robust agreement and it has worked very well for the past 30 years. And I think we need to celebrate its achievements. As Marit said, 14,000 acts have been incorporated into the EEA agreement since it was signed. We are addressing common challenges together with the EU and are an integral part of the internal market and therefore also its future. Although we are seeing many synergies across the different files, this is something that needs to be assessed and something that our member states are closely doing. In the beginning, I reflected on the past and how much we have sort of taken for granted what we have already achieved. And back in the day, just like today, a lot of commitment was needed to actually achieve that. So I think it will be interesting to see how we will talk about the present period in time after another 30 years. I will conclude my presentation here and hope it has been insightful and a useful run through in light of the 30-year anniversary. I look forward to seeing you all in the breakout session later today. Thank you.